Five Nights at Freddy's. This has been a long time coming, and especially a long time in terms of the wait for this video, because I really thought I had to give myself some time with this movie, because I didn't want to rush into it, reviewing it, and just praising it all around, because I noticed a recurring trend with some of my videos is that I tend to look at things more favorably immediately after I saw them. The Flash! So I kind of wanted to avoid that and wait a good amount of time and just let my thoughts process for this movie and give you an actually good review, because I know a lot of people have already made reviews for this movie, and you know, that's just how it is. You know, I wasn't expecting anything else. I wasn't expecting people to wait for me or anything, but I'm going to be reviewing it now, and I really just wanted to talk about this movie in depth and everything I enjoyed, everything I disliked, and to do that rightfully so, I have to spoil some things, but don't worry about it. Don't worry, viewers, if you don't want to be spoiled, that is completely okay. I'm going to be splitting this video into a two-parter sort of thing. I'm going to give you a warning when the spoilers come up, and the rest of the video is going to be spoilers, but for now I am going to give you my non-spoiler review of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and just why I think this movie is just, like, it's meh. Like, honestly, it's not great. I'm gonna say that right now, but I definitely wouldn't say like it's the worst thing I've ever seen, but there are glaring issues in this movie that I am gonna be talking about today. But before we get to the main meat of this video, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and if you like what you see here and you want to see more out of me, just like and subscribe. It really shows your support. It's been really weird for upload schedules as of lately, I know. I'm trying to get back into it. It's very difficult. But let's just get out of the way. Let's just start talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, shall we? Now, for the people who've been living under a rock, this movie is based upon the highly acclaimed and very, very popular video game series Five Nights at Freddy's. And in this film, we follow Mike. He's a little bit of a down on his luck guy. He's having a hard time keeping a job. And when a new opportunity rises up that he could work the night shift at an abandoned pizzeria, he instantly jumps on it because he's got bills to pay, and he's also trying to keep custody of his little sister, Abby. So naturally, Mike takes the job, but he will soon realize that there's something far more sinister going on in this pizzeria, and the animatronics may or may not come to life at night. That's my very basic summary of the plot. I do want to say right now, if you are a fan of the lore, you know way more than what I just said, and you're probably saying that's the very bare bones like description of this movie, and that is very, very true. I don't want to spoil too much for casual moviegoers who haven't like read up on the game or played the game, because, you know, it's a movie. You're not supposed to have to do like a fucking 50-page word essay and research before you see a movie. I don't think that's right. But I just want to start out with my pros right away, and let's just get the good stuff out of the way. And the first thing I really want to say is everything from a practical level looks amazing. All the animatronics are 100% real. There's no CGI with them. So they actually made these suits, and I just gotta say, they look friggin' awesome. Like, they look so good. Like, I had my doubts just for a couple little things in terms of how they're gonna look when they're moving around, how they're gonna look when they're actually going after people, they're killing people, but I gotta say, it all actually looks really good. Like, there's a lot of really good practical work, and they all look extremely faithful to the games, and they have that weight to them. It actually feels like these things are robots, which is something in other movies that I feel they haven't been able to capture, which breaks your immersion. Things like Willy's Wonderland and the Banana Splits movie, they never really felt like robots in those movies, at least to me, and Five Nights at Freddy's definitely breaks that. They feel like robots. You feel the weight behind them with every step they take. You can feel that these things are just giant machines come to life. And I just love that they actually went out of their way to get real suits for this movie, because if you don't know, behind the scenes looks, they have actual real animatronics that they use, but then they also made actual suits that certain actors can actually wear, so they can do all the movements and when they're trying to walk around and stuff. And I just gotta say, that attention to detail and that actual effort is just so awesome to see in this movie, and it really went a long way. But not only do the animatronics look good, like, the damn sets in this movie look freaking awesome. I played the Five Nights at Freddy's games when I was a kid, and I just gotta say that these look almost spot on to how it looks in the game. Like, even down to the damn security camera room looks fantastic. Like, there are so many little nods and Easter eggs throughout this movie that a fan of the games can really appreciate, and that's something you do gotta take into consider, is that you're gonna have that built-in fan base, and I feel with that side of things, this movie is perfect. perfect. There are so many little things in this movie and little nods to the lore that are just awesome to see, even though they don't make entirely a lot of sense for maybe more casual viewers, but I can definitely say that they were incredible, and some of the cameos are bound to get a smile out of you, especially if you've been on YouTube for as long as you have. And another thing I really liked about this movie is our main lead, who is Josh Hutcherson's character, Mike. He was actually a pretty good character. I actually really like what he did with this character. He's kind of mysterious, but you can definitely see a level of relatability with him, where he's just a guy trying to keep a job, but he can't because he's been through so much, and I'm not going to spoil what exactly happened in his past life, and you can see the desperation of how he just really wants to go back to his life before the accident in his youth. And it honestly made for a pretty compelling character. I thought the acting really helped as well with him. I thought he was really good in this movie, and I actually really liked the relationship that he had his little sister Abby, who is adorable, by the way. I don't usually say that with kid actors, but she's adorable and she was great in the movie. And also, I just gotta quickly say, Matthew Lillard is so good in this movie. Like, I do want to stress that he's not in the movie for very long, so don't get your hopes up, but he's awesome in this movie. He really gives off Stu vibes from Scream, and I loved it. But okay, that was all my pros. Now we're gonna get on to the cons. And I really want to talk about spoilers. That's why this video is gonna be split up, but the biggest thing, and I think this is the biggest con about this movie, is that not a whole lot of it makes sense. Because if you've played the FNAF games, you know that there is a very, very in-depth lore, and very complicated, in a way, complicated lore that those original games have, which are done through mini-games and little side quests throughout the games. And in this movie, they definitely try to adapt that, or at least some of it. There's like, it's like a fraction of like the bigger picture, which is crazy to me. But I don't think they stuck the landing for making an actual coherent plot. This movie is really messy. There's like a lot of plot points that are just kind of thrown at your face, and it almost feels like a stick-to-the-wall approach where they're just throwing everything at you, seeing what sticks, and none of it really sticks, because none of it really makes that much sense besides our main plot line, which I'm not going to say, I'm going to say in spoilers. And there's a lot of time wasted from really unnecessary scenes that really don't lead to anything, and if they do lead to anything, it's like the last portion of the movie, so it feels kind of wasted of why we spent so much time on this, when we could have, I don't know, fleshed out more characters, we could have went to another plot line that was more important to the movie and was definitely more interesting in the movie, but I felt the movie really didn't go that way. It was just all over the place, and it really didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I do want to stress to people who've played the game, it's gonna make more sense. So if you're in the comment section saying, well, you see, I've played all the games and I knew everything that was gonna happen, that's just the thing. This movie was made for the fans of the games, but this movie was not made in mind, I think, at least for casual fans, to me at least. It really didn't feel like that. And when you're making a movie and adapting a video game movie, you have to take that into consideration. Like, you're trying to make new fans as much as you're trying to appease your old fans, and I really felt like this movie wasn't trying to help new fans at all. If you've enjoyed the movie, that's great, but I felt it's going to be really hard for new viewers to get sucked into this lore, into this world, opposed to the newer fans who already know everything that's going to happen, so they're just excited to be there, which is fair. And another thing I gotta say, and this is the most sad part in this whole thing, this movie's not scary. Like, even slightly. This movie doesn't even have good jump scares. I understand this movie was made for a much younger audience than usual horror movies, you know, because Five Nights at Freddy's is a kid's game at heart. It's like, it's getting into the more teen-oriented kid game era, and that's fine. Like, I was a teen when I first played it, and I guess you do have to take into account they probably made this movie for a much younger audience, which is probably why it's not as scary as it could have been. But I just, like, there was nothing. Like, there was no atmosphere in this movie. The jump scare sucked. And what I mean about atmosphere is that there's maybe like one good scene where it actually feels very creepy, but the rest of the movie really does a terrible job at establishing a clear atmosphere and making everything feel very creepy and very maybe like dark and gritty and almost like dark and dingy and just kind of gross, because you're at this abandoned pizza parlor. It should have a very specific feel, but it just doesn't in this movie. I really felt that they could have put more time into developing that atmosphere and making you just feel more on edge, because it would have made a lot of the reveals in the movie a lot better as well, and when horrible things happen and scary things happen that you're supposed to react to, they're actually scary. It really was a bummer, because I was really expecting this movie at least to have good jump scares, you know? Because this would have been the one movie I would have given it a pass, because that's literally what the game is for. But yeah, that's honestly all I really wanted to talk about without spoiling anything this part of the movie. I'm going to give my review now, like my actual like grading out of 10. And then I'm going to go on to my spoilers. So if you're not interested in seeing the spoilers, this is probably where the video is going to end for you. And I appreciate you actually watching it. But like I said, I'm just going to reiterate some of my thoughts. I don't think this movie's very good. It's not scary. The plot doesn't really make a whole lot of sense most of the time. It really is all over the place. But I think what really carries is just the practical work. The animatronics are real. The sets look amazing. And our main characters are actually decent. Like, I actually really enjoy our main character's struggles. And that's why I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. I really wagered a lot from giving this movie a 5 out of 10, but I don't think it's quite there. I think it's a 4. I don't think it hits that bar that I was hoping for, unfortunately, which I will just say I called it. But let's just talk about spoilers now. Let's just get straight into it, and why I think this plot is just a huge mess. And I'm going to talk about some of the things in the plot I just don't like, and I don't think were even needed, and really don't help anything. Like, there's a lot of moments in this movie where I was just confused in why they would go that route. Like, as an example, there's like 6 dream sequences in this movie, but the thing is, they're not different dream sequences. They're the same dream sequence, just with slight variations. Because in this movie, Josh Hutcherson's character, Mike, is going through a lot of grief. Because when he was a kid, he was with his brother, and his brother got kidnapped, and his parents very much made it clear that he was supposed to be the one watching him, and all his life he's been obsessed with finding his brother. And he's going through so much grief throughout the movie, and one of the ways he thinks he's going to be able to find his brother is by using something called dream theory, which this theory implies that all of our memories are in our brains somewhere, and through dreams we can re-access them to the smallest detail. So he purposely tries to basically drug himself to make him fall asleep so he can find out little details about his brother's kidnapper, so maybe he can find who kidnapped him, or maybe even figure out where he is, if he's still alive. And this ties into the main plot, because when he starts to do this at the pizzeria, he sees the souls of the 5 dead children from the animatronics. Because if you don't know, in the FNAF lore, there was a killer, his name was Michael Afton, and he killed 5 kids, stuffed them inside the suits, and their souls possessed the robots, and that's why they move around. And it's also why later in the movie they decide to be like literal children. Like, I'm just gonna talk about that really quick first, just while we're there. Because a lot of people have had an issue with this scene, and I don't blame them. It's really weird. It's almost like tonal whiplash, you know? Because literally 10 minutes earlier, you saw like them massacre a group of just adults. Like, they just straight up murdered everyone. And then 10 minutes later, they're like tickling Abby, they're having fun, they're making a pillow fort, and Bonnie like falls over in like a Looney Tunes-esque way. It's really weird. Like, it's really weird, and I get what they were going for, because technically these robots are chill, but it's just such a weird choice because it makes them look so harmless throughout the movie to the point where you're not scared of them. And that really doesn't help the horror either, is that you aren't fully scared of them all the time. Like, they make them seem all kiddish, and I realized that that was the intention. And I realized that the reason that they did that is because they were trying to make the animatronics more sneaky, because they're directly trying to manipulate Abby into thinking that they're her friends. But I think there was other ways to do it. Why not just show Abby's relationship with them, but then like almost put it in a way where we as the audience don't see them doing all this childish stuff, but it's implied that they do. Because then you can get that feeling that Abby is being manipulated, but it doesn't take away from that fear. It almost makes it feel more sinister or a little bit sneaky. But they don't do that. They just have happy music playing. It's just this big fun thing. Oh boy, Bonnie fell over. Oh, it's so funny. But let's just go back to the main plot before I stray too far away from it. But like I said, when Mike goes to the pizzeria, he sees the souls of the dead children in the robots, which obviously sparks some confusion. Like, are these kids associated with his little brother in a way? Was the same guy who kidnapped his brother the killer of these children? Like, and he's slowly trying to piece this thing together. But then we get the introduction of Vanessa, who is a character from much later in the timeline of FNAF, who is, spoiler alert, also William Afton's daughter, which I'm going to get to in a second. But she just kind of shows up in the movie, and she's the most, in my opinion, one of the most horribly written characters for a while I've seen. Like, she's only there to be vague. Like, she's very vague and very mysterious. She shows up out of the blue, out of nowhere, and then just suddenly knows everything to know about this restaurant. and we're supposed to believe, and they do this on purpose, is that they very much try to make you believe like there's something else going on, like she's hiding something, there's something missing, she's acting mysterious. But there's a huge problem with this in making this character super vague, is that the fact that what they're going for doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But later in the movie, it is revealed that Vanessa is the daughter of William Afton, and I have no problem with that reveal. But the reasoning for certain things happening throughout the movie make me so angry. And the reason it makes me angry is just because she's been so vague throughout the movie. Except she knew exactly what was going to happen. Because the whole plan with William Afton and the robots was to lure Josh Hutcherson's characters in. He has a daughter and he's a child killer. So he was going to go after the daughter the entire time. And he was purposely doing this so he could get closer to Abby, so he could eventually kill her in the pizzeria. But the thing is that Vanessa has been working with him the entire time, and her whole reasoning for existing was just to throw him off the trail in case he got too close to what was really happening, and kill him if he got too close, and so he could still go on with his plan. But I think the really big issue with this is that they just never show William Afton as a character, because in the movie, very close to the end of the movie, they make it very clear that William Afton is this very sophisticated man. He's very, I guess you could say, persuasive in a way, and he has an effect on you, which is why Vanessa, throughout the movie, didn't say anything and was being so vague, is because her father manipulated her to a point where she couldn't say anything. And then later in the movie, it's also implied that he did the exact same thing with the little kids inside the robots, where he was manipulating them behind the scenes the entire time. And listen, that is completely okay. I don't mind that. But the thing is, in the movie, you see William Afton twice, and if you don't know who it is, it's Matthew Lillard's character, who is an advisor at the very beginning of the movie, like a job advisor for Mike. But the thing about this that doesn't work is the fact that he only shows up twice, and the name William Afton is only brought up at the end of the movie. So throughout the movie, we're trying to figure out who this killer is to these kids and the kidnapper. But we're never given a name. We're only given there was someone here, he stole some kids. There's never a name given. If it was made very clear that William Afton was the one responsible, we could, as audience members, put that in our head and say, okay, so we're looking for William Afton here. We're trying to figure out who he really is. But the thing is, in the movie, they don't do that. There's no name. So there's no one we should associate it with, which makes the inevitable reveal of William Afton by the end of the movie, it doesn't matter at all. Like, it really feels so rushed in a weird way. And it's really hard for me to explain. I'm trying to really give you, I'm trying to really explain to you this, because it really bugged me. But I think a big problem too is they never really show Matthew Lillard's character in this movie to be a big character, even though they could have. Like, they very easily could have cut some of the dream sequences out that are literally the exact same almost every single time, and they could have very easily maybe explored Vanessa and William Afton's relationship, and then you can explain, you can show us as the audience how persuasive he is and how sinister he is, and then we could start to connect the dots. Another weird thing in this movie too, at the very beginning of the movie, when you first meet his character, is that he's not called William Afton. He actually has a name tag of a completely different name, which I think was literally just there to throw off the audience. But what real fans of the franchise will know is that this is a common occurrence with this character in the games. He goes by many different aliases, and they very easily could have just set it up like that in the movie, where William Afton took the kids, but he's a tricky man. He's got so many different aliases that he's all over the place. No one knows who he is. He uses different names. They very much could have done that in this movie, and I think it would have made not only the reveals better by the end of the movie, but just give the character more time to be on screen. Because like I said, he's like the best part of the movie, and he shows up at the very beginning and the very end. And don't get me wrong, when he shows up at the end, it's awesome. Like, it's so cool. I loved how they did it and how epic they made it feel, and I love the inevitable reveal that it is in fact Matthew Lillard's character and his performance. It really feels like Scream, and I loved it. I thought that part of the movie was fantastic, and an unpopular opinion, I thought the Springlock scene too was really well done for PG-13. I thought it was very intense. I thought it was very interesting. And I like the cinematography, and I like how they're all kind of watching him as he slowly just gets impaled by these metal rods. It was a cool scene. I really like that scene. It's nothing compared to what it was in the original, where it's spurting blood out everywhere. But, you know, this is PG-13. They can't obviously do that. And that was also a pixel game. So, but I think when it comes down to it, just my biggest complaint is the fact that he isn't in the movie a lot, so we don't really have a villain to grab onto, especially because they make it extremely obvious that in the movie, the kids are not the villain. The robots are not the villains here. It's William Afton, but he's barely in the movie, and they don't do anything to explain his motives, his inside his head. They don't show him how he manipulates people. So by the end of the movie, when you get to that final reveal, you're like, who the hell is this guy? And especially to casual fans. Casual fans are going to have no idea who this guy is. Example, I had a friend right beside me, and by the end of the movie, he looked at William Afton and said, who the hell's that? Like, who is that? Because they only 10 minutes prior brought up the name William Afton. So there was nothing to really grab onto in that regards to an actual big twist reveal. And I really hope I'm making sense with this, because once you really think about it and think about what I'm saying, it makes a lot of sense, and it feels like a very easy fix. Like, it feels if you rewrote it a little bit to make it where he is a lot more in the movie, it would make the reveal of him being the killer at the end 10 times more impactful. And I also did make this clear in my non-spoiler review, is that I understand fans of the video game are going to understand it, but that's because we played the game. When you make a movie, you're supposed to be appealing to both sides of the coin. The casual fans who know nothing about the franchise, but then also the fans who know a lot about the franchise. That's how you make a perfect adaptation. You're making new fans while keeping your old fans. And I feel this movie is really alienating to the casual fans because they don't know what's going on. They don't know why Golden Freddy shows up in that one scene and is literally like never even slightly kind of mentioned. Like, it just kind of shows up. Like, at that moment in the theater with my friend, he goes, why does Freddy look like that? Like, what happened? Like, why does he look like this all of a sudden? And then I leaned over and said, that's a completely different character. And he goes, what? They very much could have just, like, left that out or made it extremely clear that that was the other kid. But yeah, honestly, that's all I really wanted to talk about in terms of spoilers with you guys. If you're here, I appreciate you watching this far, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from a fan of the games and a fan of just good movies in general. I really feel like the mystery of this movie really fumbled the bag and could have been ironed out in certain ways to make it feel a lot better. But if it hasn't been clear already, thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw here, please like and subscribe down below for more content on the channel coming pretty damn soon, and I'm going to see you on the next one. See ya.